Hi all, the London Chess Classic is nearly there. So I'm playing in the FIDE Open, which has got about 160 entries now. If you go to londonchessclassic.com, it's not too late, I think, to enter. I think they might still have space in the main FIDE Open. But the Classic also has, the top elite section. And in that elite section, I'm not sure I covered the Brilliancy Prize from last year, where Luke McShane defeated Nakamura. Let's have a look at that. It was a King's Engine, actually. By the way, so Anand, Kramnik, Coulson, McShane, Adams, and other strong players in the elite section this year. If you've got any questions which you would like me to ask, if I did get a lucky opportunity to interview one of them, please can you let me know in this video, like if you have a question for Coulson or Kramnik, or so the question and the name and the person you would ask. In theory, I'm not promising anything. It's maybe I can see Kramnik down the pub and ask him. I hope he speaks English well. Actually, I think he does. He does speak English well. Yeah, sorry. So if I do get the opportunity to interview one of them, that'd be great. If you throw me some questions in this video, in the video comments. Okay, so Nakamura, and he's playing white against Luke, who played the King's Engine, and we don't see a totally standard, bog standard King's Engine, because it's as if we're going to the main line. Now the main line move is actually knight c6. Now there's an alternative, and this is good as a surprise weapon, I think. What Luke played was actually knight a6. So how is this significantly different? Well, for one thing, the c5 square, if white just plays d5, is not getting a tempo gain on the knight. And for the other things, c5 and b4, they're exploitable immediately with a move like knight c5 hitting e4, and then if there's time for a5, then this knight will be looking quite nice on c5. So other than that, maybe also black's also threatening, e takes a knight c5 just to hit e4. And then you've got frontal pressure as well on e4. So Nakamura played, I think, what is a trendy line. I've seen this line was getting very trendy. So bishop e3, and we have here a bishop dance. So knight g4, the bishop goes to g5. Okay, but no f6 here actually, just queen e8. And now a very sharp, ultra sharp move, which I think Luke had been beaten before by some 2700 in this line, where white played a very simple idea of c5 and bishop takes a6, fracturing the structure. But there's another tactically dangerous idea which was used by Hikaru. So after c5, if we have a look at this position, it is already kind of interesting that there's this bishop and queen battery ready to be exposing an attack on the knight. So there's undermining going on, very quick undermining of d6 with this c5. Maybe there's also this possibility of causing structural damage simply with bishop takes a6. So what did Luke do? Well, actually there's also another tactical possibility here, that because there's no pawn on d5, this can be used as a hopping opportunity for the knight to come to d5 and e7 to be exploited. And it's on this actually which Nakamura's play is based on, because after e takes d4, let's see, a knight takes d4, maybe with exposing that battery, maybe knight e5 would be good, or in fact, because d4 is slightly loose, I'm not engine checking this, just knight takes c5 there, and if bishop takes g4, bishop takes g4, queen takes g4, then there'll be bishop takes d4 at the end of it. So knight takes c5. So actually this whole line then with c5 is based on this other idea that now in this position knight d5 is actually kind of dangerous. I think there's an interesting queen trap possibility here. You'll notice that this e pawn is en prise, and the queen is trappable, I think, or something horrible happens here if that is taken. I think it might actually be knight e7 check. So the king moves, then bishop d3. That looks fairly unpleasant. So knight e7 check and bishop d3. So the queen has been run out of squares because the knight's actually covering these two. Bishop's covering that one. Where's the queen going? So, but what does Luke play? He actually just plays bishop e6. So he doesn't mind losing the exchange seemingly in this clinical fashion if bishop e7, because he's getting now 2 pawns for the exchange. It's not a bad idea. So bishop e7, he takes on d5. After bishop takes, queen takes. You'll notice in this moment he's 1 pawn for the exchange, and now it's 2. So this sets the scene for the entire game actually. So 3, 4, 5, 6, and black has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the pawns are intact. So will these pawns over here provide an avalanche later on the queen side? So that's the critical question. Are they destined to become queens? Well, queen b3. So it's eyeing b7. Also bishop a6 is still a sort of positional threat to cause some structural damage. Rook b8 was simply played, just protecting b7. Obviously b6, bishop takes a6. So there's not too many possibilities there. Rook fe1. Okay, how does black strengthen his position? Well, queen d6. Okay, tying down the knight because of that pesky knight on g4. This is still there, so that's kicked away. And now we see bishop a6, forcing move. Okay, queen a6, and now rook ac1. So c5 is under fire. How to protect it? I think b6 would fail tactically to rook takes c5 because it takes. There's queen takes b8. So the pawn is actually defended with the bishop. But now we see knight e5, and so there's some dangerous threats building up here. Maybe d6 and queen f7 is one such threat. Okay. So against that, actually, again, the queen's challenged now. Queen b6. So what does the white queen want to do? Queen f3, tying down the queen to f6. So maybe knight c4 is now a threat. In some lines, mind you, it's got a6 there. Okay, bit of breathing space maybe for black, but he played queen d6, which is a very good move, it seems, just to put more pressure on that d5 pawn. So g4, lashing out. Okay, the knight's actually pinned anyway to f7. There's no knight d5 or queen d5 because of queen f6. So everything's kind of pinned, and g5 is threatened. How to stop g5? Well, the bishop's actually done its job on c5 because the queen's now protecting c5. So it actually is employed on the diagonal. Stops g5 as well as hitting the rook. So rook c2, and now rook e8, centralizing. So rook c e2. White's getting a bit tied down with black's moves here. But now seemingly passive defensive moves, rook f8. But this actually renews the threat now on d5. The knight's not pinned to f7. The queen's not. Well, the queen is still sort of tied down to protect. So knight d5 is now a threat. Knight c4. And now we see an interesting piece exchange transaction. Queen takes d5, queen f6. Now instead of the immediate queen takes c4, which might be dangerous here, because something like rook e8 looks as though it's dangerous for that queen on f6. The queen is first evicted actually, so there might be a specific tactical reason. The queen hasn't got any useful squares to help the knight. There's no counter attack. Rook e8 just takes. Okay, so the queen must move, and now taking on c4. So the transformation has been consistent. Simplification. Black's position looks fine. White's played a few weakening pawn moves now, that g4 in particular. So we've still got the compensation for the exchange. This armada of pawns is ready to roll still. Okay, how is Luke going to do this? Well, rook e8 comes though, so still kind of scary threats. He just plays queen d5, nice centralizing move. Okay, taking on f8 now. Now rook e8. So Necker's got a concrete threat here, maybe queen h6. How is that dealt with? Well, king g7 takes away h6 from the queen, but g5 seemingly renewing that very dangerous threat. Okay, now against that threat the bishop is defended with queen d6, so if check the king could just step back, and the king and queen are defending f8, king f1, and now the pawns are finally ready at move 32 to start rolling forward. So b5, now c4, and Necker's just spectating while they roll forward, so the compensation for the exchange is just increasing and increasing. So the queen's now come off, but the armada's still rolling with that bishop in support, so it's very dangerous here. Okay, h6, trying to weaken weight on the king side, those pawns, and now this sidestep move lets the bishop come back to that diagonal, so b3 is going to be made possible. In fact, sacking the f7 pawn, it doesn't matter. So b3 check is brought in. Now the king attacks that rook again, and now bishop d4 supporting c5 with hitting f2. Okay, but taking on f2 here, maybe there's perpetual check possibilities, or trying to win this pawn. So actually the king is brought to f7. Actually that's not true, is it? I'm not really sure if taking on f2 there's a big problem with it. I guess there must be. Maybe rook a6 or something. So king f7 brings the king in anyway. So rook a6, now bishop e5. Okay, so if rook a6 was played there, then maybe it carried some extra weight if f2 was taken. So rook a4, but white seems to be just waiting for an execution now. So king d5, so herding the c pawn now to get to c4. So c4, and now check, c3, and it's like woven a mating net now. Just maybe needs to get the king to d3 or something like that, or get the bishop to a3. So actually on the next move, after rook h4, bishop b6, compelled Nakamura to resign. So a very interestingly played King's Indian in a very topical line at the time, which I've seen a few times before. So there's some queen trap implications. So knight a6, is this a viable alternative in the mainline classical King's Indian? Don't know what the current trendy trends are results wise, but from this game it was a very nicely executed exchange sacrifice for a couple of pawns, and everything was held together tactically by black, just at the right moment, doing things and stopping things at the right moment, and just gravitating towards that endgame scenario, which is so good for these pawns, just to increase their lust to expand. And the armada of pawns now supported eventually by the black king itself, and then finally this mating net woven for bishop d6 to be the final move. I hope you enjoyed it. Comments or questions on YouTube, and Kasparov is popping by at the London Classic, I think. Check out the londonchessclassic.com. Maybe you can get a glimpse of Kasparov as well. Okay, if you are around there. Thanks very much.